They call themselves straight edge, like-minded kids with a strong message that's fighting just about every stereotype associated with youth. Tonight, Fox 5's Will Thomas goes inside the movement sweeping Middle America and beyond.
And you'll soon find out what you see isn't necessarily what you get.
It seems an unlikely place for a rebellious social movement. But in this Bethesda neighborhood and throughout Middle America, this is where the straight edge movement is growing. The trademark is a cross between heavy metal and punk rock, and just one of many false perceptions of the suburban teenagers and young adults who call themselves straight edge.
It is very positive. You don't drink, you don't do drugs, you don't have promiscuous sex, you take care of one another.
And that's the straight edge creed they often tattoo all over their bodies. They're considered badges of honor, usually 3 X's. The idea comes from the nightclub scene. The X means to drink.
They stand for straight edge. They're basically a symbol of what the movement means.
What does it mean to be a straight edger?
Well, you know, just like staying focused and, you know, setting goals for yourself.
Besides the look they call hardcore, and some parents call their worst nightmare, the music is where you find their message of social change.
People are drawn to the music, then they look into the lyrics and go, you know, hey, I agree with this, or hey, I don't agree with this. Most kids that call themselves straight edge are definitely into the hardcore music.
Andrew Klein and Rick Rodney are not only straight edge, so is their band called STRIFE, performing in Richmond, Virginia on this night.
You and I may not understand the lyrics, but they do. And for straight edgers in this room and throughout the country, they're words to live by.
It's about living a positive lifestyle and having love for yourself and love for the people around you.
But in some cases, that straight edge love extends well beyond love for fellow man.
Animal rights now. Stop hurting the poor innocent creatures of this world.
It's another contradiction. The tough guy look, but a strong supporter of animal rights. That's why many straight edge kids eat only a strict vegetarian diet. But a militant faction does exist within the movement, along with their self-proclaimed war on behalf of animals. Case in point, Salt Lake City, Utah last year. The windows of this leather shop were blown out, and police believe straight-edge kids were behind it.
I think it's probably the animal rights people that don't appreciate my line of business. I think maybe I ought to be selling telephones or something besides selling dead animals.
Federal investigators agree, calling it old-fashioned terrorism, like the arson fire set at this Utah McDonald's restaurant. Members of a group called the Animal Liberation Front claimed responsibility. The same members claim to be straight edge. Back in Richmond, we found Eric, passionate about animal rights and the straight edge movement, and he admits jail time wouldn't stand in his way.
Direct action could be throwing the rock through a McDonald's window, or spray painting someone's fur.
Burning one down?
Burning, yeah, that came down to that.
This kind of militant attitude is shared by other straight edge kids, but the ones we spoke with say they're small in number.
I think violence tends to be the exception to the rule. Not, you know, the majority of kids going to shows are not violent, and those that are tend to be a small minority.
It may be a small minority, but violence was present later that same night. It was a fight just outside the Richmond show.
Basically what you have is kids that don't care. It means different things to different kids, and these kids have got it totally going in the wrong direction.
I love them. They're my family. So that's what it's all about.
I mean, it don't matter about that.
And what do you say to people who say, well, it's nothing more than a gang?
It's not. It has nothing to do with
That's
If a family's a gang, then we're a gang.
Those involved in the fight say it wasn't a straight edge thing, just a kid thing. Kids being kids, even if they are straight edge.
It's the 90s. I mean, things aren't really going to happen unless you make them happen, and I think a lot of kids have that mentality.
And if you think the straight edge movement isn't breeding inside the Beltway, might. By day, he works at a Georgetown tattoo parlor. At night, he's part of the D.C. hardcore scene. A straight edge kid for more than 10 years.
When you have a backing
all these other kids who are the same age as you and they believe in the same things, you really feel like you can accomplish something.
What's his mom think? This Maryland mother of 3, that's right, 3 straight-edge boys, couldn't be more proud.
Oh, sure, like all families, we've had our problems and our ups and downs, but we hadn't had to deal with the problem with drugs and alcohol, and really...
and for you, that's a fair trade-off.
Absolutely.
The straight edge movement now has a worldwide following, complete with newsletters and websites. And like every other social movement, it also has an origin. The movement began some 15 years ago right here in Washington, D.C. In fact, a local punk rock band coined the phrase straight edge in a song. So, Morris and Tracy, it seems those very simple words, straight edge, now have a much more significant meaning these days.